We all know the story. Every winter, India holds its breath. Delhi disappears behind a grey curtain. Schools shut, flights are cancelled, hospitals see a growing stream of patients. We scroll AQI apps like stock prices 300, 400, emergency. India is not the first country to choke on its own air. Many cities across the world have looked exactly like this: masks, smog, panic, helplessness. But some of them treated air pollution like a crisis, not just an annual inconvenience. And they took bold steps to make a difference. I'm Lavanya, and in this episode of the Climate Brief, we are not going to relive how bad India's air is. You already know that. Instead, we're asking a more uncomfortable and more hopeful question. What did other cities do when they hit rock bottom? And is there something we can learn from them? 3 cities, 3 different approaches, but 3 very real turnarounds. In 2013, Beijing experienced what locals still call the airpocalypse. The sky turned yellow. Buildings vanished at noon. Children stayed indoors for weeks. PM 2.5, the tiny particles that go straight into your lungs, crossed over 755 micrograms per cubic meter. That is nearly 30 times the WHO guideline. People wore masks years before COVID made it normal. Flights were cancelled. Breathing felt like smoking without consent. In all of 2013, Beijing recorded just 13 good air days. 13. Now fast forward 10 years. In 2023, nearly 90% of Beijing's days were classified as having good air quality. At one point, the city clocked 192 consecutive good air days. In fact, from 2013 to 2023, Beijing's PM 2.5 fell by 64.2%. PM10 fell by 43.6%. Nitrogen dioxide, or NO2, by 53.6%, and sulfur dioxide, or SO2, by 88.7%. That kind of turnaround doesn't happen by accident. So, what did China do differently? First, they stopped pretending the problem was unclear. Coal was the biggest villain. So they went after coal. Coal-fired power plants were retrofitted with scrubbers that trapped sulfur before it escaped and, where possible, shut down completely. Industrial coal boilers were replaced with gas and electricity. And by 2015, Beijing's urban core was essentially coal-free for household heating. Second, they made cars a policy problem, not a lifestyle choice. Old vehicles were forced off the roads. Emission standards were tightened to China 6, on par with Euro 6. Car ownership was capped using license plate lotteries, and public transport exploded. Beijing's metro grew from just 54 kilometers in 2000 to nearly 1,000 kilometers today. They also rapidly electrified their bus fleet. By 2020, 82.8% of the total buses in Beijing were electrified. This can be more than 10,000 plus buses in Beijing alone, making China lead the world in EV buses. Third, they shut factories down. Not temporarily, not symbolically. Over 1,900 polluting industrial units were closed or relocated. Even giants like the Shugang steel plant were moved out. And here's the most uncomfortable part. China tied air quality to the careers of officials. Fail to clean up, you don't get promoted. In fact, under China's Central Environmental Protection Inspection System, nearly 18,000 officials were disciplined for poor environmental enforcement. Beijing didn't win because it found a magic technology. It won because it picked a fight and stayed in it for a decade. But what if your problem isn't coal? What if your biggest enemy is cars? Paris didn't choke like Beijing. It suffocated slowly. Diesel cars, congested streets, invisible pollution. Between 2012 and 2022, Paris made a quiet decision. The city would no longer be designed around cars, and the difference was felt clearly. Nitrogen dioxide exposure fell by 40%. PM 2.5 exposure dropped by 28%. Road traffic carbon dioxide emissions fell by 35%. How did Paris pull this off? First, dirty cars were priced out. Paris introduced low emission zones in 2017. Older diesel vehicles simply weren't allowed in large parts of the city. This forced people to get rid of the older, more polluting vehicles. Second, alternatives were made irresistible. Hundreds of kilometers of bike lanes were built. Bus lanes were expanded. The metro was electrified further. And some of Paris's busiest roads, including along the Seine, were handed back to pedestrians. Third, parking became a privilege and not a right. Nearly 60,000 parking spaces are being removed and converted into green spaces by 2030. And in 2024, Parisians voted to triple SUV parking fees. The result? Car traffic in central Paris fell by nearly 34% in a decade. Paris didn't ban cars, it just made cities pleasant without them. But what if your city isn't European? What if it's growing fast, crowded, and unequal? Between 1998 and 2005, breathing in the city was genuinely dangerous. So the city asked a different question. Not how do we control cars, but how do we move people better? Between 2018 and 2025, Bogota has cut air pollution by 24%. And in November 2025, it won the Earthshot Prize for clean air. Here's what Bogota did. They built Latin America's largest cycling network. They introduced over 1,400 electric buses, one of the world's biggest fleets. They restricted heavy freight vehicles. And they invested $19.9 billion in clean mobility and green public space. They didn't stop there. The city began planting 20,000 trees, building urban forests, green roofs, and gardens. By 2028, Bogota expects to avoid 300,000 tons of carbon dioxide every year, like removing 65,000 cars from the road. Bogota decided to make clean air a right, something to be enjoyed by all its citizens, not a luxury. 3 cities, 3 different approaches. Beijing fought coal, Paris fought cars, Bogota fought bad urban design. None of them copied each other, but they all shared one thing. They identified the real source of the problem, took structural, long-term, often unpopular decisions, and enforced them consistently for years. And here's the hopeful part. Every one of these cities saw visible improvement in 5 to 6 years. So can India. But only if we stop chasing shortcuts. Only if we stop pretending that this is temporary. And only if we treat clean air like what it really is, a basic right. I'm Lavanya and this is the Climate Brief. If this story gave you hope, share it, because the air we breathe shouldn't depend on our postcode. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe to the Climate Brief.